Floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. I'm Yasha Franklin Hodge. I'm the chair of the Public Improvement Commission, and I will call to order the hearing of February 13th, 2025. Mr. Lyman, would you please take the roll call?
Would the representative from the Public Works Department please state their name for the record?
Yasha Franklin Hodge.
Property Management Department, please do the same.
Joseph Callahan.
Transportation Department.
Amy Cordy.
Water and Sewer Commission.
Denise Devlin.
Commission for Persons with Disabilities.
Young.
And we do not have anyone from ISD today, but we do have a quorum.
All right, thank you very much, Todd. On to our first agenda item today, hearing minutes. At the request of the Public Improvement Commission staff, the acceptance of the minutes of the PIC hearing held on January 30th, 2025. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of January 30th, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstain? So moved. On to the public hearing section of the agenda, starting with public hearing number 1 on a joint petition by Eden Harvard LLC, Joseph R. Sullivan 2010 Trust, and 31 Harvard Realty Trust, the acceptance of a pedestrian easement adjacent to Harvard Avenue, Public Way, Brighton, located on its westerly side at address numbers 25 to 39, generally between Cambridge Street and Farrington Avenue. This was new business on January 30th. As shown on a plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division Pedestrian Easement Plan 25 to 27, 31 and 39 Harvard Avenue, and 410R Cambridge Street, Boston, Allston, one sheet dated November 5th, 2024. Would the proponents please introduce themselves, their affiliations, and give us a very brief introduction to the project and changes as it relates to the pedestrian easement since your new business hearing. This is now 2 separate agenda items for the easement and the specific repairs, so we will start with the easement and then move on to the specific repairs.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Brian Judge, an attorney with Wilson & Storrs. I'm joined today by Noah Maslin of Eden Properties, Brian McCarthy of RJ O'Connell and Associates, Natalie Adams of Verdant Landscape Architecture, and Rob Del Savio and Katie Fiedler of Embark Architects. Just as a brief reminder, Eden Harvard LLC is proposing a new mixed-use, primarily residential project located adjacent to Harvard Avenue in Allston, with properties having the addresses of 25 to 27 Harvard Avenue, 31 Harvard Avenue, 39 Harvard Avenue, and 410R Cambridge Street. Just by way of reminder, the project obtained Arc-Lady Large Project Review approval from the BPDA in December 2023 and zoning relief from the Boston Board of Appeal in January 2024. And as was mentioned, we were before the commission for new business 2 weeks ago on January 30th, requesting approvals for pedestrian easement and specific repair. So we'll take each of those in turn. By way of update on the pedestrian easement, we just wanted to note, we did have a call on February 5th with Todd, Ashley, and Sarah to discuss the boundaries of the pedestrian easement, as that was part of the discussion at new business. But ultimately, we agreed that the easement as shown at new business would remain the same. So there have not been any changes to that plan since new business, but I'll turn it over to Brian McCarthy in case there's any questions about that plan. And I'll just note that we did finalize the form of pedestrian easement with Chunk.
Good morning, Brian McCarthy with RJ O'Connell and Associates. Yes, as Brian mentioned, the pedestrian easement plan that was prepared remains the same, and that is Can you see the plan? Yep. Okay, so yeah, the plan remains the same, and basically what it is an easement for an additional 4 foot width over the sidewalk area that will be constructed on the private property for the full frontage of the property. So that 4-foot width shown on this plan remains the same as before. And then on the pedestrian easements, on the specific repair plan, all up here. This is
We can hold off on the specific repairs for now. That's going to be its own agenda item. So if we're just, if that is all we need to see on the pedestrian easement, we can stop there and see if there's any questions from commissioners. All right, hearing none from the commission, PIC staff, or members of the public.
I'll take this opportunity to remind the public, if you wish to ask questions or add testimony to any particular action item, we ask that you use the raised hand function at the bottom of your screen. I do not have any comments or questions on this at this time, and I don't see anybody else wanting to weigh in yet either. So I think we're all set on the easement.
All right, hearing nothing else, last call. Do I hear a motion to approve public hearing number 1?
I'll make a motion to approve a joint petition by Eden Harvard LLC, Joseph R. Sullivan 2010 Trust, and 31 Harvard Realty Trust for the acceptance of a pedestrian easement in Harvard Ave, as read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstain? So moved. All right, on to the second part of this. Public hearing number 2, the joint petition by Eden Harvard LLC, Joseph R. Sullivan 2010 Trust, and 31 Harvard Realty Trust for the making of specific repairs within Harvard Avenue, Public Way, Brighton, located on its westerly side at address numbers 25 to 39, generally between Cambridge Street and Farrington Avenue, consisting of curb and sidewalk reconstruction with structural soil, as well as new and relocated specialty pavement, street lighting infrastructure, parking meters, street trees, irrigation infrastructure, driveway curb cuts, bike racks, and a bike repair station. This was new business on January 30th, as shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division Specific Repairs Plan 25 to 27, 31 and 39 Harvard Avenue, and 410R Cambridge Street, Boston, Allston, 2 sheets dated February 11th, 2025. Would the proponents please reintroduce themselves and their affiliations, and then give us an update on the specific repairs and specifically any changes or comments since your new business hearing.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Again, my name is Brian Judge with law firm of Woolston Stores. I'm joined today by Noah Maslin of Eden Properties, Brian McCarthy of R.J. O'Connell and Associates, Natalie Adams of Verdant Landscape Architecture, and Rob Del Savio and Katie Feeler of Embark Architects. So same project as just discussed in connection with the pedestrian easement. In terms of updates with respect to the specific repairs, there have been a handful or so since the new business, which I'll just describe briefly now, and then turn it over to Brian McCarthy to show you in more detail on the plans. So as requested at new business, we replaced the multiple existing parking meters along Harvard Avenue with one multi-space parking kiosk. Second, in response to comments we received from the Boston Parks and Recreation Department since new business, the openings surrounding the proposed street trees have been increased. And we can also confirm, based on a question they had raised, that the proposed trees here are all included on the city's approved tree species list. Third, we added a bike fix-it station to the sidewalk along Harvard Avenue. And then finally, I'll just mention that similar to the pedestrian easement, we've also finalized the form withdrawing of the LMI for this particular action. So with that, I'll turn things over to Brian McCarthy, again, just to walk you through the changes in more detail.
Yep, Brian McCarthy again with R.J. O'Connell and Associates, Civil Engineers. So the first item was the replacing the existing 4 meters with a multi-space parking kiosk. We show the location on the plan here, right in this location. And we put a note, and we have a note on here that this will be coordinated with Boston Transportation Department during construction. So final location will get coordinated, but we show it here for now. The other item added here was a bike fix-it station, and that's going to be right in this location here. in the furnishing zone, along with the bike racks that are all along the furnishing zone. The increase in the size of the openings in the pavers at the new street trees, that went from 2 feet square to a 3 foot by 4 foot opening as requested by Parks and Recreation Department. So those are indicated by the white rectangles here in the paver areas at the trees. So that now is 3 feet by 4 feet of an opening. And as Brian mentioned, we added, at the request of Parks and Recreation, we added the tree species onto the plan here. We've got ginkgo and almost American Valley Forge are the trees that are proposed, and they are on the approved list, city's list. So that's pretty much the changes made since the last meeting.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, questions, comments? All right, hearing none. PIC staff or members of the public?
I'm all set on this. I appreciate the project team taking the time to meet with us last week to finalize some of these details. I see no one from,
Oh, go ahead.
no, I see nothing else. All set.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much. Do I hear a motion to approve public hearing number 2?
I'll make a motion to approve a joint petition by Eden Harvard LLC, Joseph R. Sullivan 2010 Trust, and 31 Harvard Realty Trust for the making of specific repairs within Harvard Ave, as read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstain? So moved. We are all set. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, moving on to our next item, public hearing number 3 on a petition by the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority for the making of specific repairs within the following public ways in Boston proper and Roxbury, consisting of curb realignment, roadway and sidewalk reconstruction, as well as new and relocated pedestrian ramps, street lighting infrastructure, traffic signal infrastructure, storm drain infrastructure, street trees, bike racks, trash receptacles, bollards, wayfinding signage, and grade-separated bike facilities. Massachusetts Avenue, generally between St. Stephen Street and St. Paul Street. Huntington Avenue, generally between Public Alley number 405 and Public Alley number 820. This was new business on January 30th, as shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division Specific Repair Plan, Massachusetts and Huntington Avenues, MBTA Symphony Station Improvements, Public Way, Boston, 8 sheets dated February 10th, 2025. Would the petitioners please introduce themselves, their affiliations, give us a very brief reintroduction to the project, and then any updates on the specific repairs component of this. There are, I believe, 3 actions related to this project on the agenda, so we'll kind of take them one at a time, but we can start with those specific repairs.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Dino DeFranzo Sr. I'm the Municipal Liaison for the MBTA Symphony Station Project Phase 2. Joining me is Judd Galloway from Thornton Tomasetti. As we told you a couple of weeks ago, Phase 1, which consists of the utility relocation work, is scheduled to be completed this spring. And Phase 2, which consists of station improvements and surface improvements, is anticipated to start this summer. There were a couple of questions at the last hearing. I believe they were from Sarah at Commission on Disability, and the couple of responses, the project team has verified the ADA compliance of the sidewalks and curb cuts on the Huntington Avenue overpass, and the project Phase 2 will replace the 4 detectable warning strips at the curb cuts on the Huntington Avenue overpass. I also coordinated with Chung Lu on some actions that need to be taken after the approvals, and have coordinated with Todd in his office. So with that, I want to pass it on to Judd Galloway for any specific information he has on the first item, which is specific repairs.
Thank you, Dino. Good morning, Commissioners. As Dino mentioned, my name is Judd Galloway. I'm with Thornton Tomasetti. I'm the project manager and project prime for the design team on this MBTA station improvements project. I'll share my screen to show the specific repairs. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so this is the specific repairs project for the Symphony Station's improvements project that, as the commissioner noted, includes surface improvements for new elevators, improved stair access, emergency egress stairs. Other specific repairs include new street lights, new traffic light signage, new utility relocations, etc. The specific repair plan remained the same except for the minor changes that Dino just mentioned. We have indicated now that we will be replacing the 4 detectable warning strips on the overpass at Huntington Avenue. Other than that, the plans did not change from our meeting on January 30th.
All right, thank you very much. Commissioners, questions, comments?
Hi, I'm Sarah Leon with the City of Boston's Disabilities Commission. Appreciate the project team looking into our comments and proposing those changes to replace the detectable warnings. I just asked the team to coordinate with our Public Works ADA coordinator and manager on the compliance of those ramps after the PIC hearing, just to ensure that our records match your records as well.
We'll do, Sarah, not a problem.
All right, so I wanted to just flag the wayfinding signage piece of this. So I think that we will, at a minimum, need an LMI to cover the wayfinding, since that's a non-standard thing for the city to be responsible for maintaining. And we probably want to talk about the other infrastructure here that is possibly something the city can commit to maintaining, like bike racks and trash receptacles, but depending upon the precise details of what's being installed and where, we may need to come to some understanding about what the city's responsibility is and what the MBTA's responsibility will be going forward. So can I get a commitment from the T to agree to work with us on an LMI for a minimum, the wayfinding signage, and to at least entertain a discussion as part of that about the other street furniture elements?
Absolutely, Chief. And I'm meeting with, I'll be meeting with Chung Wu next week anyway. I can start the ball rolling with Chung and Todd on the wayfinding piece, the LMI, and I'll keep you updated before anything is locked in.
All right, that sounds great. Much appreciated. Yeah, it's also, I think, as I'm looking more closely, right, there's bollards, there's street trees, so we just need to make sure we're aligned on all of those elements and long-term maintenance.
There's a lot happening in a very small area there, so I agree.
Very true, very true. All right, hearing any other questions from the commission? All right, PIC staff or members of the public?
No, I'm all set. The signage, the bollards, those I think are definitely going to need to be in the LMI. The tree will be up to the Parks Department, I think, but Dino and Judd, I'm happy to work with you, and Chung after this hearing to figure out all that stuff.
Thank you, Todd.
Hi, this is Christian Simonelli, Executive Director of the Groundwater Trust. Dino, good to see you.
Christian, always a pleasure, Christian.
Always a pleasure, my friend. It looks like some of the area that you're doing the work in contains some observation wells that we have, I think. So just keep us in mind when you're out there resetting those roadway boxes. Some of these roadway boxes are pretty old, coming up on 20 years. So there may be a case where when you go to place them back, they may just be too far gone, and we can certainly replace those and get those replacements out to you. So I would just encourage just keeping an open dialogue with us as you're going through the work. And if you do need it, we'll get it right out to you.
Christian, how about you and I meet up next week and we can go over the plans and the project?
Sounds good to me.
All right, thank you.
Thanks very much. Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Christian. Good to see you. All right. Hearing nothing else, do I hear a motion to approve public hearing number 3?
I'll make a motion to approve a petition by the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority for the making of specific repairs in Massachusetts Avenue and Huntington Avenue as read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstain? So moved. On to public hearing number 4 on a petition by the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority for a grant of location, relocate existing utility infrastructure within the following public ways in Boston proper and Roxbury: Massachusetts Avenue, generally at Huntington Avenue; Huntington Avenue, generally at Massachusetts Avenue. New business on January 30th, as shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division Grant of Location Plan, Massachusetts and Huntington Avenues, MBTA Symphony Station Improvements, Public Way, Boston, 40 sheets dated February 10th, 2025. Would the proponents please reintroduce themselves and their affiliations and let us know about any changes to the grant of location portion of this project since your new business hearing?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Dino DeFranco Sr. I am the municipal liaison for the MBTA Symphony Station Project Phase 2. With me is Judd Galloway, the project manager for Thornton Tomasetti. I don't believe there has been any changes, but I will pass it over to Judd so he can give you the answer definitively.
Good morning again, Commissioners. This is again related to the Symphony Station Improvements Project by the MBTA. And as Dino mentioned, there have been no additional changes to the grant of location plans from our new business hearing on January 30th.
All right, well, given that, Commissioners, any questions or comments? PIC staff or members of the public?
I will just mention, I had previously asked for some additional information to be added to this plan set that resulted in a 40-sheet set, which I think is maybe a little much, but so we can pare down the sheets in this plan set and only get we'll figure out which sheets we actually need to record. So I don't think we're going to need all 40. So
Todd, sorry about that. We'll get you just what you need.
yeah, no need to apologize. I asked for it, so I got what I asked for.
If it's okay with you, I'm going to blame Judd for that, all right, Todd? All right?
We're going to blow through our signing pen budget at this rate. All right, do I hear a motion to approve public hearing number 4?
Make a motion to approve a petition by the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority for a grant of location in Massachusetts Avenue and Huntington Avenue as read into record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstain? So moved. All right, on to public hearing number 5 on a petition by the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority for the vertical discontinuance of portions of the following public ways in Boston proper and Roxbury, vertically above the grades of the sidewalks: Massachusetts Avenue on both sides, generally northwest of Huntington Avenue; Huntington Avenue on its northwesterly side, generally northeast of Massachusetts Avenue. This was new business on January 30th, as shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division Discontinuance Plan, Massachusetts and Huntington Avenues, MBTA Symphony Station Improvements, Public Way of Boston, 2 sheets dated February 10th, 2025. The proponents please reintroduce themselves, their affiliations, and give us an update on anything that has changed since your new business hearing.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Dino DeFranco Sr. I'm the municipal liaison for the MBTA Symphony Station Project Phase 2. And with me is Judd Galloway, project manager for Thornton Tomasetti. I don't believe there have been any changes from the new business hearing concerning vertical discontinuance, but I'll pass it over to Judd so he can definitively agree or disagree with me.
Thank you, Dino. Again, Commissioners, good morning. My name is Judd Galloway. I'm with Thornton Tomasetti, the project manager from the design team for the MBTA Station Improvements Project. I confirm what Dino said. The 5 discontinuances that we had proposed in our January meeting for new business have not changed and are shown on the screen here.
Thank you very much. A question about, so two of the head houses are currently being abandoned that are being shown on this plan. Can you speak to sort of what is happening below grade at those locations and how that is being handled from a kind of what the understanding of the proponents is in terms of any existing discontinuance that may be by explicit grant or just by existence of a structure there, how that is being kind of handled and going forward with the abandoned locations.
Absolutely. So as you noted, we are abandoning these existing stair head houses that are that occur at the corners of Mass Ave and Huntington Ave at the BSO and Horticultural Hall. These stairs will be completely demolished in order to make room for the station's expansion required for the new elevators just to the north. So we are asking for that the discontinuance of the property to the north of the existing head houses and these locations where the abandoned stations will be restored to sidewalk and to the city. Other than that, below grade, there should be no, there will be station expansion that is probably, I think, 8 feet below the sidewalk at this location for these head houses. But above grade, it will be restored to sidewalk.
Got it. So we're not being asked to grant a further vertical discontinuance related to this on the sort of basis that it has already been somehow discontinued since there is a MBTA facility there today. Is that
correct?
Correct statement? Okay. So there's sort of a larger issue here that I want to raise and maybe ask a specific question in the context of these particular locations. You know, as I think, you know, folks know, obviously the MBTA has quite a bit of underground infrastructure in Boston, and some of it runs underneath sidewalks and streets that the city has generally been responsible for maintaining. Given the age of this infrastructure, much of this infrastructure predating the PIC process, we don't have well-kept records of where that infrastructure was located or any sort of, in my understanding, we don't have clear sort of discontinuance, you know, records or other, you know, other examples of, you know, having sort of tracked the history of that space over time. But this creates potentially a challenge for us because, you know, we are then charged with maintaining sidewalks and streets that sit above these pieces of underground infrastructure, and absent clear maps and documents, absent sort of clarity on responsibilities of maintaining those subgrade structures, it can be very difficult for us to do even simple things like repairing a sidewalk because we do not always know what is directly underneath that sidewalk and the condition that it's in. And so, you know, what we are trying to do as a city elsewhere is to ensure that when there are structures below grade, areaways, or other things that as new projects come through that establish, you know, either that touch on the top side or that add new discontinuances, that we're formalizing maintenance responsibilities for the subgrade structures in an LMI to ensure that the city is able to do necessary topside maintenance work and that there's clarity on who is responsible for ensuring that the below grade structures are capable of supporting whatever maintenance work is needed on the top side. So that is a big problem. It is a citywide problem, and it's not just specific to the MBTA, but it is a thing that we are trying to move forward with in general across the city. So my ask here is kind of twofold. One is the city would like to, and the PIC would like to engage the T in a discussion about this broader issue in particular locations where the T has underground infrastructure that impacts, you know, sidewalks and streets and curb ramps. But the more specific ask in this location is if we can discuss with PIC in the areas where there is an abandoned structure or any discontinuance happening that implicates sidewalk that the city would subsequently be responsible for maintaining, can we create an LMI that sort of spells out the responsibilities of the T as it relates to maintaining the subgrade structures so that the city can perform necessary maintenance above ground? So that was a long spiel, but I wanted to put that on the record and confirm that the T is willing to work with us on those issues going forward.
Chief, I'll get that to the appropriate MBTA official department, and I don't see why the team wouldn't work with the city on this. So I'm going to say yes.
Okay, excellent. I appreciate that. I think, this is something of a bigger and broader ask, and so I feel comfortable with us moving ahead with this particular action at the PIC. I would ask that we do take a focused look here, and particularly where we're abandoning existing infrastructure while maintaining below-grade presence, that we try to formalize the maintenance responsibilities of that in an LMI, but I think I'm comfortable, given the existing precedent, to move ahead with this action today. We'll work on that separately.
And Chief, if we could have a follow-up meeting too, because like I said, I'm not sure it's the capital delivery department that would be responsible for the engagement with you. So, but I will definitely get maybe the real estate department, I'm not sure, but I will definitely track down the appropriate department.
All right, much appreciated. Commissioners, other questions, comments on the vertical discontinuance?
One question related, Chief, to your comment about the LMI and maintaining a below-grade structure. Will the LMI cover snow and ice clearing and removal for the once this project is complete? Who is responsible for the snow and ice removal in this area?
Judd, we'll be taking ownership of the area, of the discontinued areas.
I think the MBTA of the discontinued areas, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, so the MBTA will own these discontinued areas. So I would imagine the MBTA would be responsible for that. And Joe, I was anticipating that question for you after the Chiefs talk because of Government Center Station. So I knew you were going to ask that.
Thank you for the answer. It's a high traffic area, a lot of pedestrians, and we want to make sure it's safe. Thank you.
Yep.
And just to state for the record, right, my assumption is that any area that is not discontinued and that is not under the direct control of the MBTA would remain the responsibility of the abutting properties, as is typical in any public sidewalk elsewhere in the city of Boston. Is that the T's understanding as well?
Yes.
All right, excellent. All right, commissioners, any other questions, comments? PIC staff or members of the public?
All set on this.
All right, thank you very much. Do I hear a motion to approve public hearing number 5?
I'll make a motion to approve a petition by the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority for the vertical discontinuance in Massachusetts Avenue and Huntington Avenue as read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstain? So moved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so
everybody.
much.
Thanks, Nina. Thanks, Judd. All right, moving on to our final public hearing on a petition by, public hearing number 6, on a petition by Verizon New England Incorporated for a grant of location with lead company status and no participants to install new telecommunication infrastructure with city shadow conduit within Armandine Street, Public Way, Dorchester, located between address number 41 and Washington Street. New business on January 30th, that's shown on a plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division Grant of Location Plan, 41 Armandine Street, proposed conduit installation, one sheet dated December 2024. Would the proponents please introduce themselves, their affiliations, give us a very brief reintroduction to the project and any changes since your new business hearing.
Yes, good morning. Ross Billadu representing Verizon New England. I'm going to go ahead and share screen here. Okay, just making sure everybody can see that.
Yes, we can.
Very good. Just a quick overview. Again, Verizon is proposing to place this 318 feet of new conduit from our existing manhole 49A located at the intersection of Washington Street and Armadine Street. 318 feet to an existing Crown Castle shared handhole to again provide fiber services along Armadine Street. There have been no changes to this plan since the last hearing on January 30th. And we do acknowledge the fact that will need to work with the Commission for a Person with Disabilities if there are any handicap spots affected by this work.
Thank you, Russ. So a new issue that sort of cropped up related to this. So there is, Armadine Street has some traffic calming infrastructure associated with it or installed on it that was put in place a couple of years ago. And we heard from some constituents on this street. In fact, there was a story in the Dorchester Reporter specifically about this street that some of that infrastructure has already been disturbed by other utilities, not Verizon, with some work that they have done here. There are speed limit pavement markings at the head of the street at Washington that have been obliterated, and there is at least one speed hump that would be traversed by this conduit run that, again, has already received some damage as a result of past utility work, possibly two humps along the conduit run. I've not mapped it exactly. So the ask here is two things. So first, that Verizon work with the city to receive a copy of all of the pavement marking plans associated with the traffic calming that was installed here and ensure that everything is restored fully to its intended configuration. Anything that's disturbed by this, the city is already planning to repaint those speed limit markings, and I'm not exactly sure where they land in the roadway relative to your conduit run, but it's likely that they may be disturbed again, depending upon the timing of when you do this. So making sure that all those markings are fully restored. And then for the speed hump, the city is in the process of developing formal restoration standards for speed humps. But we would like to ask that in this case, that Verizon commit to fully rebuilding the speed hump or speed humps that are impacted by this project to ensure that they are built in a consistent way and continue to function in their intended manner.
Okay. Well, sure, I wasn't privy to any of that information, so I appreciate you bringing it to my attention. I suppose if that's what we need to do to get this project approved, then I need to commit to that. So I can bring those items to my contacts, running this project and make sure they abide by that. But again, I wasn't aware of any of that information prior to you telling me, so I don't.
Yeah, fair enough. So, I mean, I think from my perspective, I'm happy to, kind of advance this with a conditional approval on the restoration piece of this. I would also ask that we update the plans that are being submitted to the PIC to show speed humps. This is, again, a place where the city has a responsibility to update our standards, and this will become a thing that we ask you and other utilities to do as a matter of course on your future plans, but in the same way that we ask you to show curb line and other constructed elements on the public right-of-way, speed humps, because they are physically constructed items, do need to be shown going forward on the plans. Obviously that's new, we had not previously asked you for that, but we would just ask, in addition to that commitment, that you give us updated drawings that show which hump or humps are affected by this, and a notation about their restoration on there before we file everything.
Sure, makes sense to me. I'll make sure that they start adding those. Thank you.
All right, much appreciated. Commissioners, other questions, comments? All right, hearing none. PIC staff or members of the public?
No, we're all set. Thank you.
All right. Do I hear a motion to approve public hearing number 6?
I'll make a motion to approve a petition by Verizon New England, Inc. for a grant of location in Aberdeen Street as read and seconded by the chair.
Second.
I'll just note that is conditioned on the elements that we just discussed about restoration and updating plans. Do I hear all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstain? So moved. Thank you very much, Ross, and thank you for working with us on that last minute curveball and speed humps. Much appreciated.
Sure, thank you for your time, take care.
All right. And with that, we've reached the end of the public hearing section of our agenda, and so we are moving on to new business, starting with new business number 1, 495 Dorchester Avenue, Alger Street, Ellery Street, Bayline Drive, South Boston, widening, relocation extensions, line and grade approval, specific repairs, private utility license, projection license, earth retention license on a set of petitions by OTD D2 Title LLC. Would the proponents please introduce themselves, their affiliations, and walk us through the project and the various actions that you are proposing to take?
Morning, sir. Thank you. My name is Mark Rosenshine with Trademark Partners. We're the owner's project manager representing Core Investments, and I'm joined by Kevin Wright from VHB and a number of members of our team who will walk you through this. Hopefully you're seeing my screen. Very high-level introduction. On the dot is a master PDA that was approved by the planning department, covering approximately 21 acres on the western side of Dorchester Avenue, immediately north of Andrew Square Station. The project, when it was proposed in 4 phases. The first phase, which is the one we're going to be talking about today, encompasses 9 acres, again on the western side of Dorchester Avenue, and 4 buildings. The first building is 495 Dorchester Avenue, which is a residential building. Then there are 3 commercial buildings, 505 Dorchester Avenue, 75 and 65 Ellery. Within that 9 acres, those 4 buildings have gone through the development plan process and also been approved through the Planning Department for Article 80 and Article 37. Our commitment to the Planning Department was to build and receive a certificate of occupancy for a residential building first, before we proceeded with any of the commercial buildings. And so our first project is 495 Dorchester Avenue residential building, encompassing approximately 320 residential units, including 94 senior affordable housing units within that project. And so the specifics of that involve work in Dorchester Avenue, Alger Street, the creation of a new Ellery Street, and some adjustments to the surrounding public realm space. That's a very quick and big picture, and I'm going to just turn it over to Kevin Wright at VHB to then walk you through the details of our proposal.
Thank you very much, Mark. I'll share my screen as well. All right. So, yes, we have mailed out our necessary, good morning again, sorry, Kevin Wright from VHB, as Mark said. We mailed out the necessary engine reports, utility notification letters, and plans necessary for the utility agencies to review. We've gotten all of our comments back, and several agencies we've had meetings with, Commission with Persons on Disabilities, VPDA, and we've met extensively with the street lighting department to talk about layout of street lights. We've also addressed comments that have come in and responded to those items. And we've developed these engineering plans, which I'll walk you through one at a time. We'll start with the specific repair plans. What you see right now in front of you is the specific repair plan for Dorchester Avenue. This is existing sidewalks out there, 8-foot wide sidewalks. The specific repair plan lays out an extension for 20 feet from beyond the existing property line to provide a 6-foot bike lane, 12-foot furnishing zone, and approximately 9-foot wide sidewalk to give it 80-foot right-of-way on Dorchester Avenue. Streetlights, sidewalks, crosswalks, all those will be city standard materials. There are a number of trees, bike racks, and seating elements planned for this portion of Dorchester Avenue as well. At this time, do you want me to continue to walk through the specific repairs for each street, or?
Yeah, that would be great if you can just walk us through and then we can jump back if there are specific questions.
Okay. So that's Dorchester Avenue. There are crossings planned across Dorchester to tie into what is known as East Park, which would be adjacent to the 495 building, which you have shown here in this portion of Dorchester Avenue. Next, we'll walk through to Alger Street, which is perpendicular to Dorchester Ave. Alger Street is also has an 8-foot wide sidewalk adjacent to the property existing. With the new right-of-way that we're presenting, we're given and pushing it back 17 feet to provide a 5-foot wide bike lane, 5-foot wide furnishing zone, and a 9-foot wide sidewalk to give a 67-foot total foot right-of-way. And again, there's also bike rack elements, street trees as well along this stretch of Alger Street. Hubway or Blue Bike Station, bike rack will also be incorporated. Per our conversations with the Commission on Disabilities, we've added this crosswalk element at Alger and Ellery. We've repositioned this since the initial plans went out in October to better align the cross and line up a pedestrian path continuous along Dorchester Ave frontage. The next is Ellery Street. Ellery Street is a new street which would have a total right-of-way of 83 feet. We've got a number of elements going on here where we have 8-foot parking lanes on each side, 11-foot travel lanes. The land south side of Ellery Street has street trees, bike racks, elements that are all going in with the 495 building. Per our meeting with Commission on Disabilities and the BPDA, we've changed this crosswalk alignment and straightened it out and given it a little bit more width than what was initially presented on plans that went out in October. And we also have provided a turnaround for Ellery Street on this plan so that it does not terminate on the city has a turnaround element so it doesn't terminate on a space that cannot get out and get back to Alger Street. You'll notice that we have bituminous called out, and per our conversations with the PIC staff, this is due to the fact that, as Mark showed in the master plan slides, that the 65 Ellery building would be going in and it would be constructed, and therefore that portion of the street and trees and elements related to specific repairs would come back at a future date when that building design is finalized. And our last specific repair is tied to Bayline Drive, which is just north of Ellery Street, opposite of Alger, adjacent to the MBTA tracks and property line. And this would have all bituminous pavement, curb, street lighting, two 11-foot travel lanes, a 10-foot wide multi-use path. We've got a safety buffer zone along this stretch of Bayline Drive to separate the multi-use path. And we have a configuration that allows pedestrians and bikes to get across and up to the multi-use path. We also present this turnaround, the same as what was on Ellery Street, to provide a element to getting out and around Bayline and back onto Alger Street. In the larger scale master plan, these streets, Ellery and Bayline Drive, extend further to the west, or Plan West, and we'll come back at a later date when those developments are ready to come forward to the PIC staff. With that is the specific repair actions. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much, Kevin. I think we can, I know that there's quite a few actions beyond the specific repairs associated with this. Maybe given the scope and scale of the project, we can we can start with any discussion on specific repairs and then have you come back and walk through all of the other actions associated with this, since there's quite a lot of detail in here. So I will open it up to the commission for comments and questions on the specific repairs. All right, very good. I have a couple. On Alger Street, you're showing a sort of fully constructed, new southern curb with a sidewalk zone with the bike lanes and all of this other infrastructure. The northern side of the street is showing, just a sort of what appears to be like a paint and maybe flex post separated bike lane, but no significant changes to the sidewalk. Can you just sort of explain the kind of intention there and what should be anticipated as this in future developments on the northern side of Alger Street?
Sure, so, go ahead. Hopefully you're hearing me, there's a little echo on my machine. So the development as a whole, as I mentioned, is 4 phases across a significant area, and as we're building out each piece, we try and manage the side of the street so as not to build new things, new sidewalk, new trees that we would then have to tear out when we build on the other side of the street, which is why, as you saw, we're doing bituminous and things like that on Ellery between 45 and 65, so that when we build the next building, we're not spending more to throw away something that's finished. In this case, there is an existing industrial user on the other side, Karas and Karas Glass. The city, working with Planning Department and Transportation, had talked about the complete street that is Alger, but that should not and cannot actually be installed because we don't own the property and the rights on the far side. So we're leaving the existing sidewalk condition, which they use today. They load across it, right? Karas and Karas needs to continue to operate and fully function until such time as that industrial building gets removed, redeveloped into a new building, and then the other side of Alger Street would be brought to the equivalent level of finish that we're showing on 495 side. So there is an expectation of a mirror image level of finish and detail and street trees. It's just that we're phasing it and really only able to control the southern half of Alger Street because there's a different property and a different use on the other side in the temporary condition. It's the same answer why there's this slightly odd crossing at Alger Street, right? The existing public street ends, it sort of dies off today. So we want to clean that up in the interim, but ultimately the goal would be that sidewalk would continue planned left here. And same for the answer about the diagonal crossing on the left side of the sheet at Bayline. But eventually the other side of the street gets done and that gets straightened out and cleaned up. We were working with staff and planning department to just clean up the edges to make it safe and functional while recognizing there will be significant additional development on the other side of the street as we go into different phases.
Great, thank you very much for clarifying that, and that certainly makes total sense given the nature of the project. And obviously we always want to kind of make sure that no matter what happens with future phases of development, that, we're sort of not left with something that doesn't make sense, but this feels like a reasonable interim condition and one that can, sustain us until the next phases are moving ahead. Second question relates, sorry, Sarah, did you have something related to this?
Sorry, Chief, I just had a quick note. We recognize and we had worked with the team that the northern half of the northern page will be a temporary crosswalk. However, a compliant ramp will need to be provided on the other side to make that crossing compliant even in the interim.
This side of the street has a compliant ramp going, and this is an existing level condition.
Yep, so it needs a detectable warning, and if that could be documented on the plan as a compliant ramp or providing a compliant ramp with a detectable warning to ensure that that crossing meets our city standards.
And just to piggyback it, appreciating the desire to not build anything that then has to get ripped out, the city does have an obligation, even in interim conditions, to maintain accessibility. And so if there is not a fully compliant reciprocal ramp on the north side, it will need to be constructed as part of this, understanding that it may get removed and replaced with something more involved in a future phase. But that is a baseline standard even for an interim condition for us.
Okay, we can talk, a little bit more in detail, I think, Sarah, because I think one thing that's concerning about this is right now that if you go out there, this is a driveway right here, and this is all bituminous and level at that grade. So maybe a detectable warning here would just be sitting on a level bituminous path that gets people across, and down a wide open aisle. There's no real sidewalk on this side or this part of the street here. So it's really to get people from here to this portion of the new street. So that makes sense to have a detectable here. But again, it's currently in its current condition as a level bituminous area. So, okay.
All right, well, please work with the Disabilities Commission in the interim to kind of come up with a plan here. But again, the expectation is that we have a compliant, accessible crosswalk wherever we have a crosswalk, even in interim. So we'll leave it to you all to sort through what the details of that can look like here. Second question just relates to expectations around maintenance of the both capital and operating maintenance of the sidewalk, the street trees, the street furniture, the bike lanes. Where are we with developing an LMI, and can you sort of give a sense of how you're expecting what will be maintained, what of this new infrastructure will be maintained by the project versus by the city?
So there is a LMI developed or working on. The team's attorney, Paula Devereaux, sent information to Chong that they're in the process of reviewing and redlining. I don't know if she's on to give any details as to what they plan to maintain, but I know that there is a understanding of standard materials, non-standard materials would be maintained by the development at this
So, yes, Chief, my name is Paula Devereaux. I'm an attorney at Pierce Atwood. I have done a series of agreements, easements, and other documentation for all of this, all of the approvals that are sought for this project, and have sent them to Chong Lu for review. It is my understanding that the project is going to be responsible for the sidewalks, maintaining the sidewalks going forward, and that the city will be responsible for maintaining the streets.
And where does the sidewalk level bike lane fit into that?
I don't think we've discussed that specifically. I think I need to talk to my client about that. Mark, do you have any comments on that?
Paula, this is John. I think Mark had to bow out for a moment, but I think we could look at this together in light of the drafts that have gone out and make sure that that's understood, the responsibility. We obviously don't want to leave something undefined relative to where the start and stop of sidewalks and or other complete street elements and who's responsible for it. So I think that can be detailed.
And, I have a question. In prior developments where you've done the layouts of streets to be public ways, who's usually responsible for bike lanes?
It can vary, and it depends a bit on the details of the design. In many cases where there is sort of sidewalk level bike lanes that are integrated into the streetscape that is being developed by and for the project, that those have maintenance responsibilities that fall on the project for things like sweeping and plowing, and as well as longer term capital maintenance. But there is some variation to that. I think if this was to be our preference, I think, would be that all of the sidewalk level elements be the responsibility of the project proponents, and that likely would be the sort of our interpretation of the existing responsibilities that fall related to maintenance of sidewalks adjacent to a parcel. But it would be good to clarify and codify that, if the proponent would like to propose that the city have like snow clearing and sweeping responsibilities of the sidewalk level bike lanes, we would need to evaluate the design more carefully through the lens of our own operational constraints, which are often quite different from that of a proponent. And unfortunately, and part of why many projects end up maintaining these kinds of facilities is that, our requirements, for example, for clear width to be maintained to allow a plow to come through are wider than what a project is able to do on their own. And often that has a bunch of repercussions downstream of the design of the public right-of-way. So it typically tends to be cleaner if a project can take responsibility for sort of all the sidewalk edge forward kind of stuff.
Okay, I'll discuss it because I'm not, I would say 100% familiar with the actual design of the bike lanes, and I know that they can vary by street, so I will bring that back to my client and we'll discuss that.
Excellent. Thank you very much, and Todd can help broker a conversation with Public Works Operations if there's a need for a discussion there, but hopefully this is something we can just clarify in the LMI and be set with.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Commissioners, other questions, comments on specific repairs? Okay, PIC staff or members of the public, and then we'll move on to the other actions that are all part of this new business.
No, keep going.
All right. Let's jump into the next set of pieces here.
These are the details, excuse me, for the specific repairs. Next, we have the widening and relocation for Dorchester Avenue. As I alluded to in the specific repair, we're pushing the property line back 20 feet to provide the extensive street furnishing zone and pedestrian walkway along Dorchester Avenue. And this plan reflects that widening and relocation area. Next, we also have should have been in order, but I wanted to present, we also had a widening and relocation of, yes, Bayline, there we go. Or line and grade, Bayline Drive. Bayline Drive is a new public way, 57 feet. And is adjacent to Alger Street. And as we noted, it's to provide for a public ways turnaround and access back to Alger and Dorchester Avenue, which gets folks in and around the site until such a time when the Bayline Drive in its full entirety gets built out. Then we have a line and grade plan for Ellery Street as well to build a new public way and provide layout for Ellery Street to connect to Alger Street and provide folks with a travel way and turnaround to get back to Alger and Dorchester Avenue. This is the interim build condition of Ellery Street until the full master plan level gets built all the way out as well. So that is Ellery, Alger, and Bayline. Here's the Alger Street, excuse me. The Alger Street widening and relocation plan as well pushes us out for to provide the same elements of area for pedestrian travel way along Alger Street, as well as providing bike lane, street furniture, furnishing zone along Alger, adjacent to the 495 building, which was part of the phase 1 and what will be the future building of 65 Ellery Street. So those are the widening and relocation and line and grade plans for Alger, Dorchester Avenue, Ellery, and Bayline Drive. Are there any questions at this time?
Yeah, I've got one. Have you on the Ellery and Bayline turnarounds?
Yes.
If you analyzed whether a large Boston Fire Department truck could accommodate that? Could they accommodate a large Boston Fire Department truck turning around?
With those streets, we've ran an aerial tower truck to full turnaround and get out along those two roads.
Okay, good, thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Commissioners? Todd?
Keep it going, Kevin.
All right.
All right. So next, after line and grade and widening relocation, we have a utility license plan. This utility license plan is to provide what we have in Ellery Street as an ambient loop along Ellery Street, which is two 12-inch HDPE pipes that'll be installed for the ambient loop condition along Ellery Street and future design, as well as the maintenance and installation of private drain lines that are cutting across to what will be tied to an infiltration system in the East Park, which was shown on a previous plan. And also a stub for future connection to 65 Ellery Street. Those are the two private utilities that will be in Ellery. Any questions on the utility license plan?
Can you just provide me a little bit of clarity of what these utilities are that are being shown here and how this is this a sort of a specific utilities for this project, or these conduits or space that will be sort of filled in the future by other utilities? What is being kind of placed here?
Yeah, so in context, and we'll grade this out for the public hearing. These are standard electrical, telephone, utility infrastructure that's shown here. That's planned for providing telecommunication and cable services. So those would be pretty standard. They should be grayed out in this plan to provide you the context. The ambient loop is the line that's going to be privately maintained and functioning to serve as a connective service for the buildings and future roads that are tied to this project.
Hey, Kevin.
Yep.
Sorry. Hi, I can jump in on that one. Hi, Rick Dupree with VHB. I'm the project manager for the work that we're doing with Core Investments on Dorchester Avenue. So the ambient loop is proposed to be installed. The project is studying sewer heat capture, which is a way of extracting heat from the public sanitary lines, running it through heat pumps and converting it into a source of power for the buildings. So it's something that's in its early stages. We know that that's something that John Sullivan at Boston Water and Sewer has looked at, and the client in this case is trying to put in the infrastructure that would allow us to use those systems in the future should we move forward with a sewer heat capture process without having to go in and rip up the streets and roadways in order to put in the infrastructure.
That's helpful and very interesting. I think I guess my question, given that this is a sort of like speculative, future-oriented, preliminary infrastructure, is how confident are you in the sort of placement of these facilities, the potential connection points, any access points that might be needed, in part because these facilities are shown underneath the sidewalk zone and therefore will be in a much more constructed location. They'll be adjacent to tree pits, and there's a question about impacts on tree root zones if these are being used for heat transfer. It feels like what's being proposed is a sort of emerging technology in a location that, depending upon how that technology ends up being utilized in the future, might have downstream impacts. And so I'm a little nervous about just the speculative nature of this as we approve a specific location.
Yep, so it's a technology. It's one that's being used in different places. This team went to Denver to observe a system that they have in place. We've been on the phone with folks in Vancouver that have a similar system the goal of the ambient loop, it's running water at a temperature that is not harmful to other utilities or trees or plants, right? You're extracting heat from the wastewater, but the ambient loop temperatures aren't at a degree that are going to cause any harm or issues with the landscaping or adjacent utilities. And the goal here would be for this loop piping to run through or be able to be extended through the entire master plan. And that each building, yes, you would need to do a little bit of work to make the connection from the loop to the building systems themselves. But we're putting the loop in a place where we're minimizing the impacts of those connections to the buildings, as opposed to moving forward with development and then basically needing to rip up the entire right-of-way of Ellery in order to come back in the future and install that infrastructure. And so, the chances of it moving forward, I'm not sure, right? It's really hard to put a percentage on, a utility or a facility opportunity to use renewable energy in order to, create some power opportunities for your development. But it is forward thinking and something that, the client has and will continue to explore as an opportunity to provide power to these buildings.
Thank you for that, and not intending to suggest that this technology sort of is it's fully speculative. It's more, and I appreciate that it does exist elsewhere. I think what's being shown here is a reservation of space and a placement of infrastructure to support a potential future investment of something that is not yet fully designed, and that gives me some pause, given that the locations of those interconnection points to the buildings are not, defined at this point, given that there is appreciating the point that these are lower temperatures than other kinds of district level heating, again, without sort of having access to a sort of fully designed system, it's hard to evaluate the impacts that this might have on trees. I would also just note that the location of this loop puts it in the tree root zone for any future work that might be done here, whether that's an interconnection to a building, a repair, or other kinds of maintenance. And again, with a system that hasn't been fully designed, you sort of always hope that the infrastructure you place today will support the eventual system, but a discovery that the width of the diameter of the pipes is insufficient, or that additional insulation is needed, or that an interconnection is needed, could potentially require this to be dug up. The basic of it is such that any digging here would be even more impactful than if this was placed in the center line or near the center line of the roadway or along the western curb edge of Ellery Street. So if we were looking at this and it was sitting up along that western curb, I don't think it would be causing me much in the way of heartburn. Just recognizing that it may get used, it may not get used, and its use would be sort of similar to any traditional utility infrastructure. The issue is that it's placed in the sidewalk zone, it's placed near street trees, and we don't know how it will be used in the future, and if it will be used in the future, and how much digging or other disturbance might be required. And so I guess my question is, can this be placed in the street where we at least know the shape of what the impacts will be if and when it is dug up or interconnections are made?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked that question, because what you don't see here is a complete picture of street utilities once we add in sewer and water and all the other utilities that need to be installed in order to complete the project. And so, meeting Boston Water and Sewer standards and other utility standards with respect to where they want placement of their utilities, right? Sanitary in the middle, minimum 10-foot offset for water, our drainage infrastructure, et cetera. You can see the congestion that is within this very narrow street right of way, right? It's only one lane in each direction. And so in order to find a place for the ambient loop, we needed to go external from the road surface in order to put that infrastructure in.
even with the 3 dimensions that you have to work with in a street.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to really staff utilities here for a couple of reasons, right? It requires you to either shut off or eliminate any utility if you need to get to the one that sits below. And also, this site is highly contaminated, and so as part of the project, Core Investments is going through a significant remediation effort in order to either remove completely contaminants or to cap contaminants in an AUL situation. And so limiting depth is important for us for all of the utility systems that we're running through the project, both in what sits in Ellery or anything that will be in the future development parcel. And so my sensitivity is really to a stacked utility condition where if you needed to get to the underlying condition, it's a real challenge in that you need to basically remove or find a way to support the utility that sits above in any repair condition.
Got it. Okay, I think this needs a little bit more further discussion, and we can perhaps work on this in between now and your public hearing. Certainly, were this infrastructure to be located here, right, we would, of course, need the proponent to take full responsibility for all future capital maintenance related to the space surrounding it. We would not want to have capital responsibilities for, even just basic sidewalk repair if underneath the sidewalk is a sort of bespoke piece of heating infrastructure. So that is an absolute baseline. But I remain sort of particularly concerned about the potential tree impacts of this in the future, given the uncertainties around what the system will be and how it will be modified, and its location sort of directly adjacent to multiple tree pits. It's one thing to say, rip up a piece of sidewalk to make a connection or fix the pipe or whatever and put it back the way it was. You can't do that with street trees, right? If street trees are, if 10 years go by, the trees have grown, they're, damaged as a result of the need to do linear excavation along the site of this location, right? You're going to end up losing 10 years of tree growth and all that comes with that. So it feels like a place, a high stakes place from that perspective to put infrastructure like this that doesn't have a clearly fully designed out purpose with a well-established sort of maintenance history as we would have with more traditional utility infrastructure. So I'd like to explore how we can if we're going to do this, how we can structure it in such a way that impacts for any future work related to this are minimized, particularly on the trees, but also on the more complex and expensive stuff that sits on the sidewalks portion of the street. So that's something that our team can, I think, continue to discuss with you and me in the next couple of weeks and hopefully find a way to manage this.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. All great points. And I think on our end we'll bring in the landscape architect who's reviewed our layout with respect to how they think the trees or the planting zones would be impacted, and also the MEP engineer, who's a little bit more familiar with the piping systems and the temperatures and whatnot that would be required to run this loop and extract the heat for that future building use. So I think that's a great suggestion. Thank you.
All right. Commissioners, any other questions, comments on this, Todd? Or we can keep going to the next actions.
Keep going.
Great.
All right.
Just for context as well, this is our current site plan and review with Boston Water and Sewer. So you can see these are the 2 private drain lines that connect to an infiltration system underneath the East Park that I was referring to. These are the 2 ambient loop lines which would run not under any of the concrete or brick elements, but underneath of the bituminous bike path along Ellery Street, just to give context. All right, oops. And next is our license plan for a canopy projection on Ellery Street. It's tied to the doorway that comes out of the 495 building at this location on Ellery Street. In its current location, it's about 11 and a half feet above the sidewalk. We've got a zone that we've shown on our plans, 2 feet by about 5 to 6 feet for the entire length here. And as you can see it in plan view, I'll zoom in. Excuse me. We've got the 3 foot zone by 2 foot, 2 foot and 2 foot in height by 3 foot depth out into the sidewalk with a 42 foot zone along the building edge for this canopy. It will be heat traced and internally drained. And I think, yeah, that's it, unless there's questions.
All right, I think you can keep going through the remaining ones, and we'll jump back if there's any questions on them.
All right, the next are the earth support slides, which Amy Affenbaum will talk about, and she's part of the team.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Amy Affenbaum with McPhail Associates, the project geotechnical engineer. So these plans represent our conceptual earth support system, so we'll run around the property line. If we look on the left-hand side of the plan, we'll talk about the steel sheeting first. There's steel sheeting that's showing wrapped around the proposed development of 65 Ellery. And this property here, this is meant to facilitate, as Rick mentioned, there's some significant contamination associated with this property. So this earth support is intended to be able to perform the remedial excavation as well as the below grade construction for the property. And so the sheeting here will remain in place, but will be cut down 5 feet below the finished grades to permit any future development that needs to happen. As we look to the north across Alger Street, there is some soldier pile and lagging that's shown here, as well as a little bit further right on the plan, further down Alger Street. Here, this is not part of the building construction. This is really to facilitate more of the remedial excavation. There's areas of the remedial excavation that roughly need to extend about 7 feet or so below grade. And so this is just to provide some protection during those excavations. Similarly, the wood lagging will be removed at the end of the remediation and the site work, and the soldier piles will also get cut down. South on Ellery Street, and I think we can see this a little better on the next plans. This area is the steel sheeting is meant to also show. Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Yeah, this is a better picture. So this also shows really a lot of the limits of the remedial excavation that requires some earth support because of the depths of the cut. You'll see there's kind of a unique shape to this, which isn't typical for below grade building construction, but it steps because it outlines the limits of the remedial excavation. Same thing, it will be cut down at the end of the project. And the reason that there looks to be some separate cofferdams is because there are different phases of this work that the remediation will happen. So we're looking on the south side of this page where we cross Ellery Street. This work gets done as part of the 495, more building excavation and remediation, and there's a few different phases that connect these different cofferdams together. There's another shot of the same work on Alger Street. And I think, Kevin, if you want to flip back to the sheet that's Bayline Drive. Yeah, and then the bulk of this sheet is really presenting the limits of the sheeting that's going to outline 65 and then a future of 75 Ellery Street to allow not only, same thing, the remedial excavation and the future below grade building excavations to happen. So that outlines what we have planned for the earth support. Does anyone have any questions that I can answer?
Not a question, just a comment that we cut down sheeting to a greater depth in roadways than we do in sidewalks. So that, right, like the depth that all these things will need to come down to should be identified and separated based on sidewalk versus roadway.
Sure, I mean, we'll identify that. I think what maybe makes sense is we'll outline where we're in sidewalks versus the streets. We'll just show it in a different demarcation about those different cutoff levels.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, 6 feet below sidewalks and 10 feet below roadways.
Yes.
Yep. We'll have that addressed on our plans for the public hearing as PIC staff has provided some additional notes to these plans that we have presented at the hearing today.
All right. Are we at the end of the actions, or are there more?
That's it.
All right. Quite a project. Appreciate you walking us through that. Commissioners, any questions, comments about any of it that we haven't already covered? All right. PIC staff, members of the public?
All set. There are a whole bunch of comments that the project team will need to address in the next 2 weeks, but they have those. It should be good.
All right. Will you be ready for your public hearing in 2 weeks on February 27th?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you very much. We'll see you back here in 2 weeks, and appreciate you walking us through in such great detail.
Thank you very much. Have a good day, everyone.
You too. All right, on to our next item, new business number 2, 7 Dana Avenue, Hyde Park, pedestrian easement, specific repairs on a set of petitions by HHC1 Arnold LLC. The proponents please introduce themselves, their affiliations, walk us through the project and the proposed actions.
Good morning. My name is Milan Patel. I'm with HHC1 Arnold. I'm the developer, and let me show you my screen. Can you all see that?
We can.
Okay, I'm going to go with the specific repair plan first. Just give you context. Hyde Park Ave is running plan east, and the MBTA commuter rail station for Hyde Park runs plan west. This is Dana Ave is a one-way. We're running from west to east. Part of this project includes repairing, what we're proposing here, we've been approved by BPDA, is a 27-unit residential building that was approved by BPDA June 2022, and subsequent ZBA approval November 2022. The development was 27 units, multi-residential. As part of that development, we are coming in front of the board to request a approval on repairs of the remove and replace the granite curb about 80 feet. With that, installing 2 curb cuts, one allowing access to below grade parking, approximately 10 feet in width, and also the second curb cut allowing access for a zoning compliant loading bay, approximately 12 by 25. Also inclusive of that is 2 tree beds and 3 bike racks as part of that process. The existing utility poles on both sides will remain, along with the hydrant. There'll be no changes to that. What I will want to talk to you about later on, why we have the easement request is because of these bike racks. They project a little bit further into the public realm. And the public realm, I believe we need to have 3 feet off those bike racks to allow that 5 feet of a pedestrian zone that encroaches into the private property. Hence, we have to provide an easement of about 3.5 feet. And that's pretty much it. I'll take some questions from the board.
Commissioners, questions?
Hi, thank you so much for the presentation. We just asked the proponent to add dimensions at the pinch points for clarity to show that minimum 5-foot path of travel. Thank you.
All right, other questions or comments? All right, I'll just note that, the double driveway condition, the double curb cut condition isn't something we typically like to see for, a smaller scale project, but understanding that in this case, it serves a very specific set of distinct needs and uses on the property, and that was part of the zoning and Article 80 process was to, kind of come to agreement on the site uses, and that necessitates 2 curb cuts. I think it's, certainly a thing we can allow, generally a thing we would like to avoid at this scale. But all right, hearing nothing else from the commissioners, PAC staff or members of the public?
No, one thing I will flag, one of the comments that I gave to the project team a couple days ago, we need a dimension from the new curb cut to the utility pole on the east side or the east edge of the project. Depending on what that dimension is, if it's less than 5 feet, we'll need written approval from the utility pole owner just to ensure that they're okay with your driveway being that close. So that may be a little bit of extra homework that you have in the next 2 weeks.
Will do. I believe the pole is owned by Verizon, but we'll close that loop.
Great, thanks. That's all I have.
All right. With that, we'd be ready for a public hearing in 2 weeks on February 27th?
I hope so.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much. We will see you back here then.
Thank you.
All right, on to our next item, new business 3, Southampton Street, Theodore A. Glynn Way, Roxbury, grant of location on a petition by National Grid. Would the proponents please introduce themselves, their affiliations, explain the project and the actions you are proposing?
I think you jumped one, Mulberry Terrace, NB4. You went to NB5.
Sorry, new business 3 on my agenda is Southampton Street. There may have been an updated version of the agenda that got circulated.
Okay.
All right. Well, good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Peter Nagel from National Grid. I'm being joined by Sam Wytho, our presenting engineer, and I believe Nathan Aruda, our project manager, is joining us as well. What you have before you today is a long road that we've worked with Todd Liming and PIC staff. They've been quite helpful in direction, feedback, and participation with us. And for that, we'd be remiss if we didn't thank the staff for that. This proposal is looking to replace an existing station presently at Bradston Street at the corner of Southampton and Theodore Glynn Way. That our facility serves about 11,000 customers, and it has been ID'd by our project team as the existing facility is aged, and we'd like to get that out of the ground to get the updated station with the double vaults that you see in the description or the sheet below. Relative to the location that we've chosen, in working with PIC staff, our easement folks reached out to numerous sites which would have removed the facility from the public right-of-way But those easement explorations with, say, the Roundhouse Hotel, McDonald's, the car wash at Southampton, all of those were unsuccessful. So we came back and, working again with PIC staff, came up with this sidewalk location on Southampton. The work that we'd propose to do would be to install the station in the sidewalk and then work to install both inlet and outlet piping. The inlet piping, roughly 100 feet of both coated steel and plastic, going to Theo Glenn, and then the other outlet piping would be about 40 feet of coated steel going to our existing main in the first, or the, I'll call it the parking lane of Southampton Street. We'd anticipate about a, with requisite restoration and such, working any of the operational activity, I think we'd probably need about 12 weeks for the project in its entirety. This would be a job that we couldn't really look at doing until at the earliest, the April timeframe, obviously coming out of the moratorium, but also because of the station implications with the colder weather. That obviously give us plenty of time to reintroduce the project to our abutters, specifically the fire department. And anytime we work in the area, we work pretty closely with Sue Sullivan, who's the executive director of the Newmarket Business Association as well. With that, I'd be happy to turn it over to anyone else for questions and comments and such.
Thank you, Peter, and appreciate you doing that advanced coordination with some of the key neighborhood stakeholders and abutters. I guess one question somewhat related to that, recently the lot that abuts the sidewalk area that I believe is used by United Rentals has had privately installed fencing that kind of comes into the sidewalk zone in that area. And I'm wondering if you've coordinated with, I'm not sure the current condition, but I'm wondering if you've coordinated with that particular abutter around any fencing that they have installed, temporary fencing that they installed that can be managed during construction.
We can take a look at that. I believe this sidewalk will allow for the installation of the vault without infringing upon any existing facilities.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is correct as it pertains to the formal lines of the sidewalk. Due to some of the challenges in this area, there's been some additional temporary measures installed on the sidewalk to address some of the security concerns here. So I just ask that you work directly with that abutter so that there is a clear plan for what will happen during construction and how to manage any concerns that they have. If fencing needs to be removed even temporarily, they're going to want to have close coordination with you on that.
Absolutely, not to step out of bounds, but our next proposal will address something quite similar.
Okay. And then I guess my other question just relates, I guess it's the inlet side of this. I'm seeing what looks like some new, yeah, right there. I'm seeing what looks like some kind of new structure underground, and the kind of thing I just want to flag here is that this area of Southampton and Clean Way is part of a triangle of intersections that have extraordinary safety challenges from a vehicular pedestrian perspective. We are, the city is looking at how we can potentially redesign this infrastructure here to, there's a missing crosswalk desire line, well, multiple missing crosswalk desire lines at this intersection as well as elsewhere in the surrounding area. And the traffic island that currently sits in the middle of this intersection is, while perhaps appropriate for managing traffic, is not will likely need to change to address pedestrian needs and other safety considerations. So understanding there's already a lot of infrastructure here under that island and around that island, it's always a little bit of a red flag if I see something new that looks like it's coming in a place where we might need to be doing some more constructed improvements in the not too distant future. And so I'm just trying to understand sort of what that is, and that kind of thing that runs parallel to the Southampton Street roadway just next to the water line, right there, and whether you foresee, if the traffic island was to be removed or rebuilt, that creating any conflicts with whatever is being put as underground as part of this project.
Chair, I'd like to have my design engineer, Sam, answer that question for you. As you know, I don't have much of a engineering bent, so I'd like the experts to speak.
A quick question for you, sir. Are you planning to remove this, rebuild it, or remove it permanently?
We don't currently have a design, so this is a future project, but the expectation would be that the curb line geometry here would likely change in order to accommodate pedestrian crossings to make for slower and safer crossing points. I would expect some constructed element would probably end up remaining at this intersection, but we don't have any specific geometry or dimensions at this point.
Okay. So this is an existing gas main, and it will not impact any proposed infrastructure work that you want to do in that area. The only thing that will happen is that during your construction, we'll work closely with the city to make sure that if, depending on your depth, the gas mains are normally about 36 feet deep. I said 36 inches deep. So we wouldn't have any direct impact to your construction, no, sir.
Okay, excellent. So I wasn't sure what this, I see the existing main, but I wasn't sure what this structure or this thing shown in black here is, and it sounds like, yeah, exactly. That's
yes, so this is an existing 12-inch main. There's a Williamson fitting to stop the main. Then put a full T-tie in to run the main, the inlet into the station. Then we just put a valve here just in case in the future we want to extend down Southampton Street in the future. We just keep that stop piece available as an opportunity in the future.
I got it. So that's what's being added there. Is that valve?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. No other questions from me, commissioners?
I was wondering if the project team could clarify the pinch point dimension that's created by the vent post. So the dimension between the vent post and the back of curb.
So the sidewalk right now is 9 feet 4 inches. So from the front of the traffic box to the front of the sidewalk is 7 feet 4 inches. Then the vent poles are at the back of the vault. These are bollards here, and it's 6 feet 7 inches from the sidewalk.
Is there any signage on the curb line that might make that dimension smaller?
Not to my knowledge, no.
If we could just confirm that to ensure that we have an accessible path of travel around the box, as well as putting some dimensions on the vent posts that are above grade on the vault. I think that could be helpful.
No problem. Absolutely.
And then Sarah, as well, that those doors, those Bilco doors will be obviously part of, I'm going to call it the pilot program, but as we both know, it's kind of the, except I think your department is now comfortable with calling that the permanent structure, if you will.
Yeah, with the slip resistant covering.
Correct.
That's correct.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions, comments on this? Okay. Hearing none, will you be ready for your public hearing in 2 weeks on February 27th?
We plan to be.
All right. Excellent. We will see you then. Thank you. And on to your next item, and I believe the last item on our agenda, new business 4, Marbury Terrace, Amory Street, Roxbury, grant of location on a petition by National Grid. Would the proponents please reintroduce themselves, their affiliations, and walk us through what is being proposed here?
Still good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, Peter Nagel, National Grid Community and Customer Management, and I'm joined today by Sam Oifo, who is our presenting and sponsor engineer for the proposal you have before you at Marbury Terrace and Amory Street in Jamaica Plain. This location, unlike the previous, didn't lend itself to a lot of exploration on easements. So what you have before you working with PIC staff is a replacement of an existing low-pressure gas regulator station in the sidewalk on Marbury Terrace with a new facility. The work would entail decommissioning the existing station first. The station serves about 5,100 customers in the immediate area. And it's again a low pressure station that would be looking to replace, providing better service for the customers as well as better and safer access for our workers who regulate those stations. Again, a facility that we have determined that has reached its current shelf life, if you will. This facility would remain in, as I said, this vault, with two-station vault, would be in the sidewalk on Marbury Street, and both the tie-in and outlet piping would be coated steel within Marbury Street. As I said, we'd need to decommission the existing site first, and then we would work to install the vault in the sidewalk. And to a question of a fence line here, that the existing property at the, I'll call it the corner of Marbury and Amory, has a fence along its property line. And in investigating this site, our easement folks have determined that we will replace that abutters fence during our restoration, because while it is, it's right on the sidewalk line there. Couple of notes here. The facility would be, in terms of outreach, adjacent to a existing northeastern property, which would be at the left side sidewalk, if you will. And hearing from your cabinet, Chief, we will be including this in a detailed discussion when we go to neighborhood services prior to our construction season. Because this would require the decommissioning of the existing system, this is something, if we receive permits and such, we wouldn't be able to start until likely May or thereabouts, again, because of the decommissioning of the existing facility prior to installing a vault. We'd anticipate with the restoration on both the sidewalk and the abutter fence, roughly 10 weeks. And again, the Bilco doors would be the agreed upon slip resistant. And because of the tighter nature of this sidewalk, we would have a pole mounted skater box instead of a traffic box for facility on this site. With that, I'd turn it over to Commissioner staff members for their comments and questions.
Thanks, Peter. I guess my first question relates to 175 Amory Street, this residential property, the single residential property on the corner. What engagement has been done with this abutter, given the substantial effects this will have to the edge of their property? I'm also interested in the tree that you're showing here, which is in their yard. It does seem very likely that any excavation work here and the substantial excavation work here is going to impact the root zone of that tree. And so I'm interested in just how that potential suite of impacts is being managed with that property owner, and how you intend to work with them to make sure that the impacts from damages can be fully restored.
Sure. So we've had, as indicated, we've had our real estate and siting team has had discussion with the property owner relative to the replacement of the fence. Any sidewalk work, excavation work relative to the tree, probably would need to hand dig around that to see what root system that would be salvageable, and then anything around that, we'd have a discussion with the owner relative to that.
We would have a professional arborist on site as well during the construction.
Oh, true.
To monitor the tree and ensure that everything is being done to protect it.
Okay, appreciate that, and obviously, we're officially mostly concerned with street trees, but given the proximity, I want to make sure that this neighbor is well communicated with, that their interests on their land are protected, and that you guys are being good neighbors as you do this work. So appreciate the attention to that. Related to the conversation we had with Verizon on Armandine Street, I believe the city recently installed speed humps in this area of the city and on Marguerite and Neighborhood Street. I am not sure if any of those, I don't have the map in front of me, so I'm not sure if any of those are impacted by this, but is that something that you have knowledge of now? And if not, can you please look into that between now and your public hearing, and we would expect to hear a commitment to fully replace any speed humps that are and associated pavement markings that are impacted by this work.
Absolutely. I had eyes on this yesterday, and of course I walked it, so I can't say definitively that there were speed bumps in that area, but none stood out to me, Chief. But I will make sure that that is both cataloged and replaced in kind if necessary.
Thank you very much, Peter. Those are my things. Commissioners, other questions, comments?
I was wondering if the team could expand on any impacts to the ramp at the corner and whether or not the infrastructure will impact accessibility of these crossings.
No, it will have a,
Go ahead, Sam.
yeah, no, it will have no impact on pedestrian crossing and movement in this area.
And I was wondering if the team could also go over the pinch points on the sidewalk, just for the record.
Yes, so we've done our review on it, and it's fully compliant with CMR 521. That's why we're using the pole-mounted skater box. So the distance between the back end of the front end of the vent pole to the front of the side of the curb is 6.4 inches. Then this is going to be the teleskater box over here. From the front of it to the front is 5.6 inches.
What about the bollards that you're putting in front of the box?
This one here.
Yeah, on the plan I'm looking at, you also show bollards in front of them.
This is the box over here. So it's pole mounted. So it's pole mounted elevated. So Amy's it's elevated from the ground. So it's going to be like a 4-inch pole with a skater box attached to it.
Okay, there's two sheets in the plans that I'm looking at. One shows something different than the other. So I think that one shows a box with 2 bollards in front of it, and one does not show bollards. So
this is it. This is this. So if there's an error there, I will have that updated and sent to you. But it's going to be a pole mounted. It's pole mounted with a box on it, and from the floor up to the top of the box, or to the middle of the box is 5 feet from the ground.
Do there need to be bollards in front of that pole mounted?
No.
Okay, yeah, the plans that were submitted show bollards there.
Bollards, okay, I'll have them removed.
Okay. Also, on the other side of the regulator pit, closer to Amory Street, it looks like there are 2 existing vent posts that stick up above grade, kind of in the middle of the sidewalk. Do those need to stay, or can those be removed?
No, those are going away.
Great, yeah, just note that on the plans too, please.
Okay.
And then maybe to the earlier question, but like right beyond this is just like a big old blank wall of a building. Is it not possible to not put this vault in front of the blank wall so that we don't impact the fence, the tree, et cetera, of the corner or butter? Like it seems like just a few feet down the road, you've got.
This building here?
Yeah. Well, right, there's a door, and then after the door, it's just nothing but a cinder block wall. So like, it seems like if it just made it past that one doorway, you wouldn't deal with fences or tree roots, because I think to the point of you can excavate and to see about the tree roots, but you're gonna find them. And so then I think it becomes a question of what happens then, because if you cut through them to install something quite large subsurface, it's likely to have an impact on the tree.
We'll do the same thing that we did at what's that location? Road of Quarry, where we had the same issues with the trees having an overhang over the sidewalk. What we did was that we brought an arborist out there. He looked at it, did an assessment. He was on site throughout the process. If we do feel there will be some significant impact to the trees, then if we have to replace the tree, we'll replace it in kind.
Is that easier than sliding it down the street 20 feet?
My concern, because of the foundation of the building, we're going to have the vault sitting right back to the foundation. We can look at it. I can take a look at it and get back to you on that, Amy, before the next hearing. And I'll get one of our contractors out there to look at it and give me an assessment. And I can get that back to you and talk.
right, sounds like some dialogue to happen on this between now and the next hearing, but appreciate everybody being willing to work with us on this. Commissioners, PAC staff, any other questions? All right, we'll be ready for your public hearing in 2 weeks on February 27th.
Yes.
All right, thank you both very much, and we will see you then.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Todd. Thanks, Amy.
And with that, we have reached the end of our agenda. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you all very much. See you in a couple of weeks.